Adventure Angler is brought to you by Club Marine Insurance and Dye with Fishing Tackle. On this week's episode of Adventure Angler, I'm driving north to Hinchinbrook Island in far north Queensland. Now, Hinchinbrook Island is a place that I've fished a number of times with my good old mate Dave Bradley, a guide there. And what we're trying to do is catch a thing called the Grand Slam. In the US, the Grand Slam is when you catch a permit, a bonefish and a tarpon on a fly rod in the one day. It's a really, really rare event and it's quite a high prize. Now, Dave Bradley and I think that the Aussie version of a Grand Slam would actually be a permit, a golden trevally and a barramundi on fly in the one day. And that's exactly what we're going to try and do here at Hinchinbrook Island. Packed and ready to go, Dave is on the water waiting my arrival. He is Australia's #1 saltwater guide, and his years of experience and local knowledge are crucial if we're going to successfully complete the Australian Grand Slam. Just want to take a little minute to describe this Grand Slam concept. In America, we've already discussed that it's a tarpon, a bonefish and a permit, but over here we don't really have that many bonefish and we certainly don't have the big tarpon, but we do have permits, so that's a bit of a must to include. And we think that the golden trevally is probably the most iconic Australian flat species, and it's actually the species that Australian flats fishing started on back in probably the early 90s in Fraser Island and Harvey Bay. So to me it's a really iconic fish and it's an absolute must to have in our Aussie Grand Slam. The third species is a bit questionable in some respects, but the barramundi, but in some respects it's not. The tarpon can live in the mangroves over in the Caribbean and also through the US. So the barramundi could be compared to a tarpon, and also it jumps as well. And the fact that the barramundi is Australia's most iconic sport fish probably puts it into the mix. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Just because of that reason, it is the most Australian iconic, fish, whether lure fishing or fly fishing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And the golden trevally, that's where, like you said, flats fishing started.
Exactly.
In Australia.
Yeah. I think we're pretty happy that the Aussie Grand Slam is the permit, the golden trevally and the barramundi, and that's certainly what we're going to try and achieve here today.
Yeah, which won't be that easy, and won't hurt if we're lucky. So
yeah, exactly.
See how that goes.
Yeah, it's fairly bold. All right, well, let's get to it.
All right, let's go and do it. There's a fish over here at 11. I don't know that he looks big enough to be a perm, but he's kind of the right colour.
And is he at 12 now?
11, yeah. Come a little more to the right, there.
And how far?
70 feet now, 60 feet.
Oh yeah, like a sickle.
I think that may be what it is, yeah. That's what I was thinking, it's the right colour. Oh, you got him. Oh, it is a sickle. Oh, that first flash had me going.
That was a fair shot anyway.
Yeah.
Not a permit, but it's actually quite a cool fish. These sickle fish look a lot like permit to us guys on the flats. They have that lime green silver essence to them, and that's kind of one of the giveaways on a permit over a golden trevally. There's like a limey silver flash to them. There we go. Pretty incredible looking fish, the old sickle. You can see that crab there. I just thought that was perfect. He's not a permit. Hopefully, he's a good start to getting a permit. Obviously, if we're relying on our vision to spot our fish before we even make a cast, we need to have really good vision for a start, but also we need to have the best Polaroids or sunglasses that we can get. We use these tonics, they're about as good as money can buy. We use glass lenses in sort of brown and copper and amber tints, and all of those variations work really, really well on this sand. We all wear photochromatic lenses as well, which actually have the ability to lighten and darken, so as the sun goes behind the cloud, they'll lighten up, and when it becomes bright again, they'll actually darken within about 30 seconds. So they're a pretty good glass to own. It's basically a one glass covers everything scenario for us.
Come on. Can't they just stick their tail out of the water? Micah, we got another pot of those rays coming up. Looks like probably just giant trevally on them. Yeah, that's it, strip him fast. There we go, nice.
Oh, that's a
Goldie.
big fish too. The biggest fish in the group, would you believe that? Using your khaki-handed right-hand reel, mate.
Nice cast.
Thanks, man. Pretty cool stuff there, as you can see. Just found a group of stingrays. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of them. And generally, especially this time of year, later in the year, if you can find those guys, there's going to be quite often some little GTs or even maybe some golden trevally, occasionally permit as well, swimming with those stingrays. I think they swim with them maybe just for a bit of protection, but probably more likely just to pick up some of the bait that sort of scurries off in front of the stingray. Quite often they'll sit just on the side or just on the lead of them. If you can get your fly out in front, like I did, I led those stingrays by about 5 to 10 feet, about 5 feet past as well. That's a bit of a key. And then a couple of strips forward, they're usually in a fairly good mood. They're pretty responsive to a fly. If this is a golden, it's certainly a key element to our Aussie Grand Slam. In some places, the goldens are actually a really easy fish to catch. At Hinchinbrook, at times they can be, but the bigger ones can actually be a real challenge. So, if this is a golden, it's going to be a really cool achievement, to be honest. And then if we can pull that permit as well today, we're going to be really close to pulling this off. All right, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, that's the one, huh?
How good is that?
Beautiful colour.
Aren't they?
The colour on those fins.
That is just a cool fish.
Yeah.
You can see what they call them, golden trevally. They're probably one of my favourite species, these guys. I reckon they're fantastic. You can see those big rubber lips there. That's how he sucks the yabbies out of those holes in the sand, and he uses it pretty well. But he's also a really good fish to hook on fly because of those rubber lips. He doesn't have any spikes, no teeth, so we can fish a pretty light leader. And mate, that's currently 1/3 of what we need to do in this Aussie Grand Slam. But it's a pretty cool fish. I think the barrier's going to come fairly easily to us. And the permit is obviously our big prize, isn't it?
He's the challenge, yeah. But this is a great fish.
Yeah, I'm pumped with that. All right, mate, I'll just see if I can get these pliers here. Because this fly, Dave, this little clouser, is so far down there. There we go, beautiful. Let's get him back, eh?
All right, let's let him go. Give him a little swim. All right.
How good's that, mate?
That's a great start.
Yeah, it is. Cool fish. Now to get the permit.
Yep.
I like it.
It's a beautiful day at Hinchinbrook Island in far north Queensland, and expert guide Dave Bradley and I are on the water trying to achieve the Australian equivalent of the fly fishing Grand Slam.
We're pushing into the breeze on this sand flat here. The tide's coming in. There's some fish moving in across the flat. And the reason for pushing into the wind, it's a little bit harder work for the guide. It's a little bit harder work for Micah casting into the wind. But it gives you a longer opportunity to set yourself up for a fish. You can see the fish coming in. You can move the boat around. You can get your angler in the right position to make a cast. If you're facing the other way, downwind, the casting might be easier. The boat's moving faster. It's harder to maneuver the boat. It's harder to get it in the right position. And often your shot at the fish is just too quick. So in this case, the sun's kind of over our shoulder a little. There's a bit of breeze, the tide's coming in. And some of those other fish will feed, that are feeding on the bottom, like a golden or a permit, they'll be feeding into the current as well. So they'll come in, and when they stop to feed, so that means we can sort of push up behind them or beside them and get more time to get a better shot.
Having already landed the golden trevally we need today, all Dave and I can do now is wait for our rare shot at a permit.
What is that? See that there?
Hang on.
It's a perm, eh?
No.
Yeah, it is. It's a perm. Yep, it's a perm.
Go left, go left. Other left. Pull it. He's going left. He's coming at you. Just keep pulling. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's our permit. We waited all this time to get one shot. I'm getting to eat. He just gets me. Oh, that one hurts. That one hurts a lot.
Yeah, they're not spooked, they're still feeding.
He's gonna run soon. Here we go. Just gotta clear this line. There we go, that's reasonably good now. And breathe. We actually thought those fish might have been permit at the start there. They looked a lot like permit. Water's sort of starting to get a bit milky in here with this wind and a bit of extra tide. So it's pretty hard to tell between a goldie and a permit. We had that heartbreak earlier on that permit. First one we see, first cast I make and I get the bite and lose him. Don't really know what it was. It seemed to, it certainly broke between the butt section of 40 pound and the tippet of 15 pound. Whether I held on just a bit too tight as the fish powered off or whether it was a wind knot around that section remains to be seen, but either way it's angler error. I can't blame anyone else for it. And unfortunately I'm gonna have to live with that one. So I'm using a 10 weight rod to cast such a heavy fly. It's a S04S from Scott. Probably the nicest saltwater fly rod I've cast in the world, to be honest. I'm using an airflow line. It's a full clear line from one of their ridge lines, and it's a full intermediate, so it's basically a slow sinking line. And it's what it's especially good for is when we've got wind like this and I'm doing the tiniest or most subtle retrieve, with a floating line, the ripples on the surface can actually cause a snake in the fly line. So an intermediate sits just underneath and it stays nice and straight. So in other words, when I'm doing a really slow, long retrieve, just trying to bump the crab along the bottom, I can keep in really good contact with that intermediate line because it stays in a straight plane. The reel's a Lanson Arcs. Really nice, light, machined alloy reel. And together it's a pretty sweet outfit, to be honest.
He's a bit green just yet, I think, Micah. He's a good fish.
He is a good fish. I reckon this guy's going to be high teens. Devo.
His mate's still swimming with him.
Still with him, yeah.
Still yours for a second.
You can see how much pressure I'm putting on this 10-weight rod. I'm trying to work angles on this guy just to really wear him out. But nothing wears him out like an hand around his tail.
Oh, that's a good fish, huh?
Yeah, that's a nice fish.
Well, it's not a bad second prize, eh? Not a permit, but
exactly.
one big golden trevally.
The pain of that permit is still there, losing him.
Yeah, I bet.
I feel like I've let you down, Davo, but this guy is a beautiful fish.
Today, Dave Bradley and I have set ourselves the difficult task of landing a golden trevally, a permit and a barramundi all on fly. It's the Australian Saltwater Fly Grand Slam.
That is just a cool fish.
We started well with a great sized golden, but missed our shot on the elusive permit. Now with the tide making flats fishing too difficult, we're heading to the mangroves to chase the iconic barramundi.
Oh, Micah, have a look at that. Big jack. Yeah, strip him a bit more. Yep. Yes!
That's a big jack, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man, he just came out right up high. And you know what? That was actually so much like the brim fishing I do at home.
Yeah, right.
He came right up high, bright red, just tracked the fly, and instead of keeping it moving like you do on a barra, I actually paused it and then did a couple little strips to represent it just twitching. He just climbed all over it. Just like big brim fishing at home. That was fantastic. Again, not the barramundi that we need for this Aussie Grand Slam, but I tell you what, I'm more than happy with this probably kilo mangrove jack on fly sight casting. That was pretty special. Wow, what a cool species this is. I tell you what, that is a hell of a mangrove jack on a fly rod. That is an absolute beauty. I'm pretty pumped about this guy actually. I'm actually probably more excited about him than that big golden I've caught. That's just a really big mangrove jack, especially here for Hinchinbrook, and on a fly rod, sight casting in those shallows, and just the way he tracked the fly, it just looked absolutely superb. You can see how beautiful these fish are. They're part of the Janet family. They're absolute little battlers in the snags. They pull a lot harder than a barramundi would of this size. I'm actually pretty pumped about this one. He's a beauty.
There he is.
Well, he's probably one of the smaller barras you're going to find, but we don't really care at the moment. He's part of our Aussie Grand Slam. I've caught him a lot bigger than this, even this year on the show, up over a metre. But this guy, oh, he's just landed on the deck. What an absolute little beauty, hey? Little saltwater barra. There we go. Isn't he just a beautiful little fish? Little Hinchinbrook barramundi is probably only about 50 centimetres, not even. But caught him on a fly rod, sight casting in these little leaves in here. The tide's really quite high now, and we've got our fish.
Nice.
plenty of light left in the day, but the tide being too high to head back out to the flats and chase permit, Dave and I concede defeat. Instead, we decide to stick it out in the mangroves.
Oh, Micah, back 10 feet to the right. There's one behind that tree just sitting up. Did he speak?
No, he's under it now. He's on it.
Lift it up, lift it up, lift it up, lift it up. Ate it.
That's really cool. Oh, he's coming for it now. You can see I'm using a little Scott Flyer. This is an 8-foot rod. They're normally 9 foot long. It's really good for this close range stuff and get tight loops. And it's also really good to be pulling these fish around in these mangroves like this. That was pretty cool. Dave's a gun barramundi guy, there's no doubt. And he just saw that fish sort of sitting in amongst the leaves there. In fact, it was pretty obvious once he pointed it out to me. You can see the bright yellow tail. I did one cast that was pretty good, but then just needed one more cast to kind of wake him up. And once he tracked it, and then a couple of words of advice from Dave, keep it coming, keep it coming. I didn't have any room to strip. I just had to just drag my rod basically. And as you saw, that bite was pretty spectacular, right next to the boat. We are having some sort of day here. We've already got our barramundi, the one to make the Grand Slam, but now we've been able to upsize it. And in terms of a bite, it doesn't get any better than that one.
Wow.
How good is that, Dave?
Yeah, pretty fish, isn't it?
Yeah, he's an absolute beauty. It's probably about 55 centimetres. But as you can see, it was all about the way we caught that fish there. Team effort, Dave spotted him. I was able to get that fly in, well, the right area, I guess, and coax him out.
Yep, in his mouth. That's the right area.
That's a really cool fish. I'm stoked with that one, Dave.
Yeah, he's nice. I think you've undercalled him there a bit. He's a bit like 65, I reckon.
Yeah, it's always good to be modest. He's a nice fish though,
right.
mate. All right, well, let's get
nice
him back.
Big yellow tail. Alrighty.
How cool is this? Well, Davo, we've come about as close as you can possibly come to getting this elusive Aussie Grand Slam. I've got the golden. In fact, I've got a couple of beautiful goldens.
Yeah, nice fish. Yeah, nice.
Got a sickle and a little GT, and then we obviously tried to get the permit. Had a few shots and had him on as well.
Yeah, I mean we had a good day, you know, no doubt, but just a little unlucky on that permit.
Yeah.
The barras were a fair bit of fun at the end.
They were beautiful, weren't they? And that big mangrove jack, you know, that's actually a PB for me on a fly rod.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a good day. It was probably, as we said earlier, probably one of the boldest things I've tried to do on this show.
Yeah, that's right.
To do an Aussie Grand Slam on fly, on camera, in the one day. But, well, mate, I guess I'm just going to have to come back and we'll see if we can get it done next year.
Do it another day.
Sounds
All
good.
right.